Have you ever wondered if there's an anime film out there featuring a half human, half vampire who hunts down vampires that takes place thousands of years in the future after some type of global calamity, presumably nuclear in nature, where vampires rule the night, and for some reason everyone dresses like it's the Old West and rides around on robot horses? Well, if you are, and then if you wondered if that movie had a sequel, that's what we're going to be talking about today. Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust, the sequel to the original Vampire Hunter D. This is the Geek Cabal channel. My name's Bobbie, if you've not been here before. And today we're going to be talking about Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust, which is the second Vampire Hunter D anime film. Now, there are a number of manga issues, books. I don't know exactly how they're organized. I've not read any of them. But there are, as of this moment, only two animated films. And they cover different story arcs from the manga, I'm given to understand. I hear there's a third in the works, though. So the original was released back in the 80s, and did a video earlier this year. Sarah and I went to go watch the 40th anniversary. It was in theaters again, and actually I think this is the first time it's in American theaters. I don't know for sure, for a wide release. And although I recall watching it on TV back in the 90s, I don't remember if it was on the Sci-Fi Channel, because they used to run anime on Saturdays, some Saturdays, or if it was on TNT's Monster Vision. Might have been on there. Joe Bob Briggs had a show on there. Or I believe Cinemax or the Movie Channel ran a handful of anime movies. I think it was actually on two different ones. Like I saw part of it one night and then saw the whole thing later, kind of deal. Again, back in like the early 90s. So anyway, then in 2000, Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust comes out. And so I kind of wish that would be in theaters this year, because it'd be the 25th anniversary. Now, in terms of like animation style, the storyline, the music, basically in almost every way imaginable, I consider this the superior film. I think it has a better plot. I think it has better writing. I think it has it's better animation, because it's newer, but it was still right around the golden era, which I've said before I feel is like probably the mid 80s through mid 90s, before a lot of like CG baloney kind of gets shoved into anime randomly. That's where we get several of the better Gundam series are from that era. Cowboy Bebop is from that era. It's like 1997, so it's pretty close. Gundam Wing is from that era. Even though I think the Universal Century series are better, Gundam Wing got a lot of people in the West into Gundam, so I got to give it credit. It looks good. I think parts of the storyline are a little hokey, but it looks really good. So this comes from right around that era, so 2000, and yeah. So overall, like, production quality is higher. The like I said, the soundtrack, in my opinion, is better. The plot is better. And so just overall, there are more characters. The characters are developed. We get to see more things instead of being just kind of stuck in one location like we were in the first movie, where D just kind of happens to come across it. Yeah. So overall, I think it's a better movie. Now, so what's it all about? Well, like I mentioned, D is a half human, half vampire. Damphir is the term used elsewhere. I think they actually say Dunpeel in this movie. Don't know what the difference is. It's half human, half vampire. His father, spoiler alert, his father's Dracula. So he is like exceptionally powerful, and he spends his life hunting down other vampires for money. Now, his character doesn't get a lot of development because he's just kind of like, he's essentially kind of like the equivalent of Clint Eastwood in any random, in like the Man with No Name trilogy. He just kind of wanders into town, does his business, and leaves. It's really the characters around him that actually have character development. This movie does confirm that he doesn't, like a vampire, he doesn't age. Because of an anecdote that we encounter in this one. So, the movie opens with a girl being abducted, or at least it appears that she's being abducted. And then Dee comes to a meeting outside of town in an abandoned church, and there's all kinds of snipers there, and he is paid to bring the girl back. And after bargaining for more money, he explains to them that it's not quite that simple, that she might have already been turned. And so the dad basically says, if that's happened, then kill her. You know, he doesn't want her being a vampire. And he just asks to make it quick. So Dee accepts the money, and then he's also informed that the other guy has hired other hunters, the Marcus brothers, I believe, to go and also try to get her back. So then Dee takes the money and leaves. Then we see the Marcus brothers going along, and they come across a town where the vampire has already gone through because everyone in town has been turned. And they're like lower level vampires to the point that they even refer to them as zombies. So they go and they take all of them out using their assorted weapons and abilities. And you get to see the Marcus brothers and a woman with them named Layla in action. Then one of them can hear a horse coming up, and one of them has a crossbow kind of thing on his wrist. He fires the arrow, and it streaks through and goes right to where the rider is, but it's Dee, and so he catches the arrow and then just snaps it in half with his hand. It's a metal silver arrow. And that's like his big intro moment. And that's when they realize who it is, because he has a reputation. So he rides off, and eventually he finds where the vampire, whose name is Meyer Link, is hiding. And it's a tall building, but you can't see it because it like reflects outward. But there are he flicks a rock at it, and an eye opens up on it, fires a laser beam at it. And so he walks up, flicking rocks like this to distract all the sentry beams till he can get up to it, then starts searching for an entrance. Now, if you haven't seen the first movie, I have no idea what kind of sane explanation I'm going to attempt to give this. Dee has in one of his hands, I believe it's his left hand, has another creature of some kind that has a face that comes out of his hand and is a separate entity that can talk and does do so. And so it has certain abilities. So he like puts it up to the wall and it starts looking inside, trying to find the entrance. And right about the time they find it, the sun sets, and so it opens up and the carriage comes out. That's whenever Layla shows up on like a single-wheeled motorcycle with a rocket launcher, tries to take it out, but Meyer Link just deflects the blast from the rocket. One of the chunks pierces through her shoulder and she crashes. So then Dee goes off and fights him and gets on top of the carriage, and they're fighting in there. Meyer's like, you're either a fool or a madman for taking on a vampire at night. And they fight, and then Dee gets distracted whenever he hears the woman call out Meyer's name from inside the carriage. And he, at that point, from that point forward, begins to suspect that she wasn't abducted. And he's right. She went willingly. She loves Meyer. And there's no, like, hypnotic trance or anything involved. Like, she legitimately loves him. And he loves her for whatever it's worth. So he goes and patches up Layla's wound. She gets very indignant about it. And then he leaves. And they keep going for a ways. You get to see some more of the world that they're in. Giant sand mantas at one point. And like ruins of the highway system and stuff like that. So they ultimately make their way to the home of the Barbaroi, who are a bunch of mutants and weird monster creatures. They've been hired to defend Meyer's carriage. So a few of them take off with him, and then the Marcus brothers show up. Dee's in there trying to negotiate with them, and then we see that one of the Marcus brothers has powers. Now, up to this point, we've seen their leader, who's got the crossbows. He can fire the crossbow bolts really fast. One of the brothers is like really big and muscle bound, like a foot taller than the others. Uses a giant hammer with a big spike on it. And then the other is pretty nimble and has really good with his blades, and he can pop them out so they have 4 blades. He can get them spinning and throw them, cut through things, stuff like that. And then we find out that the fourth one, who's inside the vehicle, their big like armored car thing, who up to this point is just kind of like sickly. He can apparently like astral project some kind of like spirit form that can fire beams of light that are very destructive, like laser beams. So he comes in and just starts blasting the Barbaroi right and left, and then makes the mistake of going after Dee, and Dee just slices him in half with his sword, which like chucks his soul back into his body very, very violently. So I think it was up to this point that the big one of the Marcus brothers, he gets killed somewhere in here because one of the Barbarois defending them can move through the shadows, literally like sink into a shadow and then emerge from another one, kind of thing. And he comes up in his shadow and stabs into his shadow, which is kind of like a principle behind like a voodoo doll, and an actual wound appears on his chest and his heart, and then he dies. I can't remember his name. Then there's Lashina, who can like transform into substances that she's touching, and then like merge with them or become like a liquid form of them or something. And then the other one is kind of like a werewolf, except when he turns into a werewolf, like also like a giant set of like wolf jaws comes out of his torso. So they end up taking out the shadow one, and then they're in pursuit, but Dee catches up to them, and the girl comes out of the carriage during the day. She wants to see the sun, and Dee catches up to her and tries to tell her that like, hey, I've been hired to take you back, like that's going to happen. Sorry for your whole like Romeo and Juliet situation here, but you're coming with me. Then Lashina ends up attacking them, and they think they kill her because she like merges with a tree, and then Dee like cuts the tree down and cuts her head off, and so her body falls and they think she's dead, but she was still like merged with the tree and everything. And then Dee gets like sun poisoning because he is still half vampire. Has to bury himself. While he's trying to do that, he can't, and the woman Hunter ends up doing it for him, kind of as repayment for him helping her earlier. Then she gets attacked. Lashina comes out of the tree and attacks her, and it's a thunderstorm going on. She throws a knife right into her head, and she said something cute at that point, like, oh, that really cleared my mind or something. Then she forms a bunch of spikes. She's like, let me return the favor. But then a lightning bolt hits and fries her. And that's the end of her. So then the girl's sitting there with Dee as the rain's going. And she confesses to Dee that she's afraid she's going to die alone. And so she wants to make a pact with Dee that whichever one of them dies first, the other one will go to their funeral. And then she kind of blows it off, and Dee's like, no, I'll do it. And she's like, oh, I didn't figure for the sentimental type or something like that. So then they kind of go their separate ways in the morning. And somewhere in here, this is where he loses his horse and has to go get another one. So he goes into this town, and so does she. And the sheriff confronts her and is like, oh, it's going to need your gun. And she gives it over, and she's like, oh, I figured you'd be busy with the Dun Peel hunter in town. And he's like, Dun Peel, and so he goes. And meanwhile, Dee has approached an old man to buy a horse from his stable, and the old man gives him a price, and Dee throws out the coins, and he's saddling up the horse. And then the sheriff comes in and is like, you can't have the horse. Like, there's a law against Dun Peels in this town. And the old man's like, listen, Sheriff, I'm going to tell you a story. And he tells him about this time way back when a bunch of kids were abducted by vampires. And they hired Dun Peel to rescue them. And he did, got the kids back. And then the townsfolk turned on him because he was part of vampire and drove him out of town. And so Dee's closer to him at this point, and the old man turns to him and he's like, I won't forget what you did for me back then, stranger. And he's like, I was a lot younger back then. He's like, I guess it's true, like, you Dun Peels don't age, do you? And the sheriff's kind of like, what? He's like, yeah, I was one of the kids. And so the sheriff's still going on, so he pulls a big gun on the sheriff, and Dee rides off with the horse. So yeah, several, the movie progresses until finally there's a confrontation once they realize where Meyer is going. He is going to the castle of the Bloody Countess Carmilla, who Carmilla is also a literary character from a book that came out just shortly before Dracula, and is occasionally entwined in like certain vampire mythologies. So here she's the Bloody Countess. And as they're riding to her castle, Dee's little hand guy there tells him that, reminds him that Carmilla's dead, that Dracula killed her due to her wild excesses and, just overall bloody excess. He stabbed her as she slept with his sword, and that's where her body is still. There was a confrontation on a bridge between the Marcus brothers and the last defender there. And I believe that's where the knife guy gets it. And we see that Meyer genuinely does love the girl, because they grab her and then he comes out of the carriage in the sun and is burning to go and get her, to get Charlotte. And so yeah, he does truly love her. So, proof of that. Then the last defender there is able to take out, like I said, one of the Marcus brothers, and the other one jumps off the bridge, thinking that the bombs he planted on the bridge are going to blow when he hits the button, but he doesn't realize that the other guy, the monster guy, had jumped off the bridge first and took the bombs off the bridge and put them down in the water. So the guy is heading right for him and hits the button and they blow up. He survives, though. And then his last brother, who can astral project, and the girl who's with him, the hunter, all wind up there to the castle. And the one who can astral project is trying to convince him not to go. And he's like, no, our other two brothers, we're not going to let him die for nothing, and all that jazz. So they get there. Charlotte, at one point, Meyer is very close to her, and you can see that he can see the blood vessels in her and hear her heart beating, and you can tell that like the thirst is about to overtake him, and he stops short of biting her, and she's just kind of like, stop being a coward. Like, I know what you are. Like, it's not some secret. Like, but you refuse to share this with me. And he's trying to explain to her, like, you have no idea what it's like the centuries of loneliness, of ache, of longing. And he's like, I don't want that for you. So I don't know what he thinks is going to happen, but it's clear that like he's keenly aware of the downsides of immortality and doesn't want to, in his mind, curse her with that. So then he thinks that Dee is there and goes and tries to attack him, but he gets attacked, and like an axe comes flying off a statue and like splits his head open. Then Charlotte is convinced that Meyer is going to finally like turn her, and goes and follows what is a mental projection from Carmilla, because I guess Meyer didn't know that Carmilla was dead, and so he doesn't know that what he's dealing with a ghost that wants to be mortal, that wants to be alive again. So she bites Charlotte, and Charlotte starts bleeding out, and her blood starts flowing towards where Carmilla's body is. Then the main Marcus brother, he gets killed, and then like as he's falling over, like the cross around his neck though melts away, and he gets turned into a vampire. And then he attacks Layla, and him and Dee are having like a showdown. Then the other brother comes in his astral form and grabs him and destroys him, but in the process it destroys himself too. So it's down to Layla and Dee trying to confront Carmilla, and Dee has demonstrated that she's screwing with their minds. She tries to play a mind trick on Dee, showing him his mother, and tries to do so with Layla, showing her younger self. Layla's family was killed by vampires, so that's why she hates them and wants to destroy them. So ultimately, Dee fights Carmilla, her ghost, on like the astral plane, and she tries to use various psychic powers against him, and she's trying to explain that that their souls are immortal, and Dee's like, no, you don't understand. Like, you have to die. That's the rule of nature. Everything dies. And she starts to really go after him, and she's like, your vampire half is your stronger half, and you're betraying your lineage, and this, that, and the other. And just like in the first movie, his powers fully kick in and overwhelm hers. He comes flying in and stabs her, it's her soul. And as she's like dying, is fading, she's like, who are you? Are you truly the son of the vampire king? And then his hand like sucks up what's left of her soul. And then her body has become reinvigorated from Charlotte's blood. Then you see Meyer's body and his face, like the two halves slide back together and seal back up, and he goes and takes her out. So then he's trying to leave with Charlotte, because the whole reason he came to her castle is because there's a spaceship there. Because of course there is. And he's going to use it to fly to the City of the Night, which is in space, presumably. So he's trying to walk out with Charlotte, and Dee's like, I can't let you leave with the girl. So then the showdown that's been building throughout the whole movie finally happens, him against Meyer. And as they're fighting, Layla goes over to Charlotte's corpse and takes the ring off her finger, and basically she's like, I've had enough of dying, enough of killing, it's like, just what a senseless waste. This girl just threw her life away, and all these people are dead for nothing. and she says she's had enough and tosses the ring. And then I guess Dee saw it at some point because he gains the upper hand on Meyer and is able to stab him, but he doesn't go through his heart. You know, Meyer's like, "Why did you miss my heart?" And Dee pulls his sword out, and the ring's rolling across the floor, and he tips it down and gets it, and you know, the ring falls into his hand. He's like, "The girl's dead. I've got everything I need," because he wasn't paid to kill Meyer and doesn't have a grudge against him or anything. So basically, he's like, "You want to go? You know, take her. Like, I've got proof that she's dead." So he takes her and gets aboard the spaceship and blasts off. And then Dee is riding out and gives Layla a ride. And they see the ship fly and take off as the castle's collapsing because it was only held up by the will of Carmilla. And then it flash forwards to like 80 years later, and there's a funeral, and you see a little girl that looks an awful lot like Layla, and she sees Dee standing underneath the shade of a tree nearby and goes over and talks to him. And she's like, "Mister, mister." And he's like, "You look like," I think she says, "You look like a friend that my grandma talked about." And she's like, "You want to, you know, come to dinner?" She's like, "No, I'm just here to pay respects to a friend and keep a promise." And he's like, she thought she would die alone, and she'd be happy to know that so many people loved her and showed up for her funeral because there's a lot of people there. And the girl's like, "Well, I understand, I think." And so he rides off, and the hand's like, "See, you're not so bad after all. You just dress bad." That's where the movie ends. But yes, it's a lot more, like I said, it's a lot more characterization. We see more of the world. Overall, the art's better, the animation's better, the music's better. You know, it's a better put together movie. So if you've seen the first one and you never saw this one, you should definitely check it out. You will probably have to track down a physical copy, and I'll put affiliate links down there if you want to get one off Amazon. You can also find it on YouTube. Now, the version I came across more recently was like a little fuzzy, so like the animation is not going to be as crisp because I think it's to avoid detection on here, and or it's just a really bad copy. And then of course I've also seen it in Spanish on here. So, but your best bet is just tracking down a physical copy. I don't think it's one of the movies that goes for some just utterly ridiculous amount of money, because that's a problem with anime movies. For some reason, they make like one batch, they send like 20 of them to the United States, and once they're sold, they just skyrocket in value. Like my copy's a DVD. I don't know how a Blu-ray is going to be any clearer picture because it's animation. So I could be wrong on that, but I don't think I am. Mine looked just fine. I mean, I have a Blu-ray, I have a DVD copy of Akira, and it's possibly the best looking movie I own, like Blu-rays included. Like it looks spectacular, and it's just a DVD. Like I don't know that a Blu-ray would actually improve it at all, but anyway. So like I said, I'll put those links down there, and like I said, the DVD is just fine. So, but anyway, if you stuck around through all that, I appreciate it. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Have you seen the movie? Have you seen the original? Do you plan on watching this one if you can get a hold of it? It might be on a streaming service like Crunchyroll or something that I don't know about, but I don't know for sure. But yeah, so like I said, just let me know down there in the comments. Otherwise, like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Sharing and commenting would help us grow the channel. We always appreciate it. And yeah, that's about all I've got to say for this one. So we'll see you folks later.